Hi there! Here, we turn psychology books into clear, thoughtful audio journeys so you can understand the mind one idea at a time. Feel free to subscribe for more. Let's dive in together. Have you ever noticed how your bedroom feels completely different after a terrible day at work or a bad breakup? The furniture hasn't moved. The walls are the same color. But suddenly, the room feels cold, heavy, or suffocating. Why does that happen? Because, according to Jordan Peterson in Maps of Meaning, we don't actually see the world as a collection of objects. We see the world as a landscape of meaning.
That split second when a meticulously laid plan completely shatters.
Yeah.
You know the exact physical sensation I'm talking about. Your stomach drops, your vision narrows, your heart rate just instantly doubles.
It's immediate.
Right. Whether it's a catastrophic project failure at work, a sudden health diagnosis, or just, I don't know, your car breaking down on a deserted highway at midnight.
The internal alarm bells are deafening.
Exactly. But what if the profound terror and hyperfocus you experience in that exact microsecond isn't just a modern stress response? What if that specific neurological shift is the exact same phenomenon that ancient civilizations were carving into Babylonian stone tablets over 3,000 years ago?
It really forces a complete reframing of how we view our daily anxieties. The idea that our everyday panic over an unpredictable crisis is structurally identical to the ancient mythological epics of sun gods battling primordial sea monsters.
It's wild.
It is. It offers a massive window into the human operating system.
And that is the mission of this deep dive. Welcome, everyone. We're exploring some really dense, profound source material today. Specifically, we're looking at excerpts from Jordan Peterson's Maps of Meaning.
But we aren't doing a standard book summary here.
No, definitely not. We are heading straight into a highly cinematic intersection where evolutionary neuroscience, ancient Mesopotamian history, and deep psychological mythology all collide.
The goal is to understand how you are biologically and culturally wired to handle the unknown. We are tracing how humanity has perpetually mapped out the experience of navigating an unpredictable world.
Right.
We'll look at how this map is physically hardwired into the architecture of your brain and how it was projected outward into the metaphorical architecture of our oldest surviving stories.
So we have three main stops on our roadmap today. First, we're looking at the actual neurology of how your brain divides its labor between the known and the unknown. Second, we are traveling back in time to decode an epic 3,000-year-old monster battle. And finally, we'll analyze the dual nature of the oldest archetypes in human history, the Great Mother and the Great Father, and uncover how they are secretly running the institutions you interact with every single day.
It's a packed journey.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the biological hardware. The text places a massive emphasis on something called the orienting reflex.
Right. The orienting reflex is perhaps the most ancient instinctual survival mechanism we possess.
Yeah.
It is the body's involuntary biological reaction to novelty or anomalies in the environment.
To give you a sense of this, imagine you're walking down a familiar hallway in your house, reading a book.
Just totally on autopilot.
Right, acting completely on autopilot, and suddenly you trip over a chair that shouldn't be there. That freeze, that massive spike of attention, that is the orienting reflex.
Exactly.
I experienced this visceral shift just last week, actually. I was presenting a slide deck to a room full of people. I knew the material completely by heart. I was totally in my comfort zone.
Cruising right along.
Exactly. Then my laptop screen just went black. It died completely. In that microsecond, I physically froze. My speech stopped. My heart rate spiked. And it honestly felt like a literal life or death threat, even though I was just standing in a temperature-controlled conference room with a broken Mac.
What's fascinating here is the underlying evolutionary economics of that exact moment.
Mm-hmm.
The human brain is an energy-hungry organ, and it operates most efficiently when it can predict the environment.
So it likes knowing what's next.
Yes. When you were presenting that deck, your left cerebral hemisphere was running the show. The left hemisphere is essentially the manager of the explored territory.
Okay.
It handles linear thinking, detailed linguistic processing, and fine motor skills. Because your environment matched your expectations, your brain could conserve calories. It didn't need to be on high alert.
The text mentions that the left hemisphere is responsible for positive affect when we are in this explored territory. Is that just a clinical way of saying we feel happy when things go according to plan?
It's much deeper than fleeting happiness. Positive affect, in this neurological context, is the neurochemical reward system.
Yeah.
It's primarily driven by dopamine, which you experience when your actions are successfully moving you toward a known goal.
Ah, I see.
The left hemisphere thrives on that predictability. It operates smoothly because your mental map of the world and the actual physical world are perfectly superimposed.
But the moment my laptop died, that map disintegrated.
Exactly, the predictable world vanished.
And that is when the right hemisphere violently seizes control.
Yes.
The source material describes the right hemisphere as specialized for chaos, for the absolute unknown. Does that make it just a pure panic button?
Not just a panic button, it is an incredibly sophisticated, high-alert data gatherer.
How so?
When the unpredictable happens, the right hemisphere instantly inhibits your ongoing behavior. That is why you physically froze mid-sentence.
Right.
It stops you because your current plan just failed, which means you are now in unexplored territory, and moving forward blindly could be fatal.
Wow.
The right hemisphere processes information rapidly, globally, and metaphorically. It defaults to assuming that the unknown anomaly is a dangerous threat. It keeps you alive by locking you in place while it furiously scans the environment for context.
That perfectly describes the tension you feel in a sudden crisis. You are propelled by two completely conflicting emotional drives. You have the terror and caution, driven by the right hemisphere telling you to freeze and protect yourself.
Yes.
But you also have curiosity and hope, pushing you to explore the dead laptop, figure out the problem, and reboot it.
And that underlying tension between paralyzing terror and exploratory curiosity is the fundamental engine of human progress. You are frozen by the fear of the anomaly, but motivated by the hope of transforming that terrifying unknown into something you can comprehend.
Making sense of the mess.
Precisely. By investigating the broken laptop, finding a charger, and turning it back on, you physically shift control back to the left hemisphere. You turn chaos back into order.
We divide everything in our lives into two simple categories: things that help us get what we want and things that get in our way. And when you understand this, you realize that your entire life is a constant, invisible tightrope walk between two fundamental forces: order and chaos. Order is the known. It's your morning routine, your stable job, the rules of society. It's where your plans actually work out. But chaos? Chaos is the unknown. It's the sudden layoff, the unexpected illness, the betrayal of a friend. It's the territory you enter when everything you thought you knew falls apart. And when chaos hits, it's not just a philosophical problem. Your body actually physically reacts to it as a threat.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Humans didn't always have fMRI machines to peer inside the skull and label these hemisphere shifts. We didn't have the vocabulary of neurochemistry or evolutionary biology thousands of years ago.
We certainly did not.
But our ancestors still experienced that exact same paralyzing terror of the unknown. And they still had to figure out how to survive it and teach their children to survive it.
That's where the stories come in. Before the advent of modern science, and even before written language was widespread, humanity relied on mythology.
Right.
These epic stories weren't just entertainment. They were vital heuristic downloads. They were the only way to transmit complex psychological and survival data across generations. Our ancestors externalized the internal architecture of the mind into a cast of gods and monsters.
The text brings this to life by analyzing one of the oldest written stories in human history, the Enuma Elish.
The Babylonian creation myth.
Exactly. We have written records of it dating back to around 650 BC, though the oral tradition stretches much further back into antiquity. Let's set the stage in ancient Mesopotamia. Before the cosmos even exists, there are two primordial entities. We have Apsu, who represents the known, the structured, the masculine principle of order.
And his wife is Tiamat.
Yes, the great feminine dragon of the saltwater deep. She is the ultimate representation of primordial chaos and the unknown.
Out of the union of Apsu's order and Tiamat's chaos, the elder gods are born. Now, these elder gods represent the constituent elements of human psychology. They are the baseline instincts, the raw emotions, and the basic drives of early human consciousness.
And they're loud.
Very loud. The text notes that these younger gods are incredibly noisy and active. They represent the unchecked, chaotic proliferation of basic human drive before higher-order consciousness is fully established.
Their unchecked behavior creates so much turbulence that they end up killing Apsu. The father of structure and order is dead, and when the structure falls, Tiamat, the great dragon of chaos, is absolutely enraged.
She goes to war against the younger gods.
This represents that terrifying moment when the unknown suddenly turns hostile.
To annihilate the younger gods, Tiamat generates an army of nightmares. She brings forth 11 kinds of terrifying monsters. The translation describes giant vipers, rabid dogs, scorpion men, and storm demons.
Terrifying.
She fills their bodies with lethal poison instead of blood, and she clothes them in what the text calls a terror-inspiring glory.
It is pure psychological horror. She is a composite of every apex predator that hunted early hominids in the dark. The elder gods are paralyzed by this. They send their most powerful fighters to stop her, but they all flee in absolute terror. The chaos is too overwhelming.
Right.
So Tiamat creates these absolute nightmare monsters. How on earth does Marduk actually fight that? Does he just overpower her with brute strength?
Brute strength wouldn't work against infinite chaos. Marduk, the young sun god, represents a totally different evolutionary strategy. He is described in the mythology as the wisest of the gods.
The one who speaks fire.
Exactly. A deity who has eyes all around his head and who speaks fire. He represents vision, articulation, and consciousness. He doesn't just charge blindly into battle. He approaches the horror with meticulous calculation.
The cinematic details of his preparation are incredible. He arms himself with a bow, a club, lightning, a specialized net, and a coat of mail designed to inspire terror in return. He harnesses the forces of nature, riding a chariot of storms.
But the most crucial detail the text points out is that Marduk goes out to confront Tiamat voluntarily.
He chooses to do.
Yes, he doesn't cower in the corner waiting for the chaos to devour him.
That voluntary confrontation is huge.
It is the psychological linchpin of the entire narrative. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Marduk isn't merely an action hero. He is the mythological embodiment of the conscious exploratory process.
The left hemisphere.
Exactly. He represents the left hemisphere's heroic capacity to deliberately step into the right hemisphere's domain of terror. By voluntarily confronting the unknown, you physically alter your physiological response. You dampen the paralyzing fear and upregulate the exploratory circuits.
So, if our biology is literally hardwired to panic when we face the unknown, how do we ever move forward? How do we build new habits or change our lives if our brains are screaming at us to stay in the safe, in the predictable zone? This is where the archetype of the hero comes in. When Peterson talks about the hero, he's not talking about Marvel movies. He's talking about the part of a human psychology that voluntarily turns around and faces the unknown. It's the person who says, "My life is a mess right now, but I am going to look directly at the problem, break it down, and fix it."
The showdown itself is brutal and highly symbolic. Marduk meets this massive dragon of chaos. He casts his net over her to restrict her infinite possibilities. When she opens her massive jaws to consume him, he drives an evil wind straight into her belly so she cannot close her mouth.
Then he strikes.
He shoots an arrow down her throat, piercing her heart. He subdues the chaos. But the story doesn't end with her death. He takes his club, splits her carcass entirely in half, and uses the pieces of her body to construct the sky and the earth. He builds the habitable cosmos out of the remains of the monster.
Slaying the dragon and building the world from her pieces is the perfect metaphorical map for human adaptation. It is the exact process of learning.
It makes perfect sense.
Chaos is terrifying. It's the dragon guarding the gold. But if you never face it, you never get the gold. You never learn, you never adapt, and your life slowly stagnates. Ancient cultures didn't have behavioral science to explain this, but they understood the psychology perfectly. They just used different words.
You take unpredictable, terrifying, chaotic information. That's Tiamat. And through voluntary exploration and articulate action, you break it down. You categorize it.
You make it useful.
You extract the utility from the chaos and turn it into predictable, structured reality. You literally build your worldview out of the vanquished unknown.
The ancient Babylonians were describing the fundamental operating system of human cognition, just disguised as a monster movie.
Basically, yes.
But Peterson's text argues this doesn't just happen on an individual, microscopic level inside our own skulls. It scales up to all of human society. How does a whole culture or a civilization deal with the overarching forces of order and chaos?
Well, this raises an important question. How do we categorize the broader environment in which we act? The environment isn't merely a collection of physical objects, it is a forum for action.
Right?
The two most fundamental categories of that forum are the unexplored territory and the explored territory. In the source material, these overarching environmental categories are personified as the Great Mother and the Great Father archetypes.
The text insists that these archetypes are profoundly bivalent. Could you break down what bivalent means in this context and why we use the term virgin matrix when talking about the Great Mother?
Absolutely. Bivalent means they possess two inherently conflicting values or natures simultaneously. Human experience is intrinsically ambivalent. Nothing in our environment is purely beneficial or purely destructive.
Makes sense.
The Great Mother archetype represents nature, the unknown, the unexplored territory. We refer to her as the Virgin Matrix because she is the unshaped raw material of reality, the fertile ground out of which all new forms, ideas, and life emerge, completely untouched by human structure.
So let's look at the dark side of that dual nature first. In her negative guise, she is the terrible mother. She is the destructive chaos of a sudden earthquake, a devastating economic crash, the onset of a terminal disease, or the paralyzing horror of the unexpected.
She represents the constant, terrifying vulnerability of biological life.
Tiamat was a perfect manifestation of the terrible mother.
She was. But juxtaposed against that destruction is her positive guise, the Good Mother. The unknown is undeniably dangerous, but it is also the sole source of all new information. She is eternal fecundity.
Right.
She is the sudden flash of massive technological innovation that revolutionizes an industry. She is the ultimate source of wisdom and rebirth.
Because without new information, we just get stuck.
Exactly. If a society entirely insulates itself from the Great Mother out of fear, it stops learning. It stagnates and ultimately dies. The unknown will destroy you, but it is also the only place you can gather the resources to grow.
On the other side of the equation, we have the Great Father. He represents culture, the known, the explored territory. He is the sum total of all the heroic acts of past generations, crystallized into tradition and institutional structure.
In his positive guise, he is the protective father. Think of him as the physical walls of a city that keep invading forces at bay, or the functional legal system that ensures contracts are honored.
He keeps us safe.
He is the cumulative wisdom of our ancestors, the functional institutions, and the predictable routines that keep us safe from the chaotic forces of nature. We absolutely require the protective father to survive without living in a state of constant, exhausting hypervigilance.
But just like the mother, the father has a deeply destructive shadow. In his negative guise, he is the tyrannical father. He is the crushing weight of outdated history. He is a rigid political dictator or the overly bureaucratic corporation that refuses to adapt to a changing market.
The structure becomes the priority over the people.
Exactly. He represents a structure so obsessed with maintaining absolute order that it attacks any new information or innovation because it views change as a threat to its control.
We see this historically when massive empires or monolithic companies collapse. They become so possessed by the tyrannical father archetype that they refuse to integrate new data from the unknown. They follow obsolete rules mindlessly, at the expense of actual adaptation, until the surrounding chaos simply crushes them.
What stands out to you listening to this analysis? Think about the environments you navigate every day. Your workplace, your industry, your community. You are constantly surfing the friction between these massive archetypal forces.
Every single day.
You deal with the Great Father when you interact with your company's standard operating procedures, the policies that ensure you get paid on time and the servers stay online. That is the protective father.
But the maddening bureaucratic red tape that requires 5 layers of approval just to test a new, efficient idea, that is the tyrannical father.
Simultaneously, you are negotiating with the Great Mother. The sudden emergence of a disruptive AI technology in your field could render your entire skill set obsolete overnight. That is the terrible mother.
But that exact same chaotic disruption is also the fertile ground for unprecedented career growth if you learn to harness it. The good mother.
The only way to successfully survive the tension between the tyrannical father and the terrible mother is to adopt the mindset of Marduk.
The conscious individual.
Exactly. The conscious individual who voluntarily steps into the chaos, extracts the useful insight, and uses it to update the rigid structures of the known world. So, what does this all mean? Let's bring all these threads together. From the literal second you wake up, you are caught in an eternal dance between order and chaos.
It is hardwired into the evolutionary calorie-saving design of your left hemisphere and the high-alert anomaly detection of your right hemisphere.
And whether you realize it or not, you are continually called to live out the ancient myth of Marduk. When your plans fall apart, you are encountering Tiamat. Your biological and psychological imperative is to voluntarily confront that unknown, dismantle it, and build your upgraded reality out of the pieces.
It is a profound, demanding framework for living. And there is a final, rather terrifying psychological concept from the source material that builds on this. The text extensively discusses the historical and mythological concept of primitive regicide.
The necessary killing of the king. That sounds intense. How does slaying the king fit into the hero's journey?
The ancients understood a harsh truth about reality. The wise king, the protective great father, the structures that keep us safe, they inevitably grow old. The environment is always changing. If the reigning tradition isn't constantly updated with new, chaotic information gathered by the hero, the protective father calcifies into the tyrannical father.
So the protection becomes a prison.
Precisely. This isn't just a generic self-help metaphor about breaking bad habits. Primitive regicide is the terrifying psychological realization that the extant belief systems, the comfortable institutional structures, and the worldviews that protected you yesterday might be the very things blinding you to reality today.
Sometimes the hero doesn't just battle the external monsters of chaos. The hero must battle the father. You have to overthrow the obsolete regime to save the kingdom.
The challenge for you is a deep internal audit. What deeply held, comfortable structures in your own life have calcified into an inner tyrannical father? What obsolete beliefs or rigid professional routines are secretly stunting your adaptation to the present? You must be willing to actively dismantle and overthrow those old psychological structures.
It requires the courage to let go of false security, voluntarily face the terrifying chaos of the present, and build a completely renewed, fully adapted worldview. You literally have to slay your own internal dictator before you can ever hope to slay the dragon.
It's a daunting task.
Those ancient myths are just maps of our own minds. Slaying the dragon isn't a fairy tale. It's looking at the terrifying bale of unpaid bills, or stepping into the gym for the first time, or having that difficult conversation you have been avoiding and deciding to confront it anyway. You are taking the chaos and you are building order out of it. Which brings us to the ultimate point of the book. What is the meaning of life? For Peterson, meaning isn't some abstract, magical idea you have to go search for on a mountaintop. Meaning is an instinct. It is a biological signal telling you that you are standing in the exact right place. If you have too much order in your life, you are bored, resentful, and stagnate. If you have too much chaos, you are terrified, anxious, and overwhelmed. Meaning is what you feel when you stand perfectly on the border between the two. You have enough order to feel secure, but just enough chaos to keep you challenged, learning, and growing. So, the next time life throws you into the chaos, remember, you aren't just surviving it. You are stepping into the unknown to build something better.
That is an incredibly powerful, unsettling thought to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the architecture of belief, the neurology of fear, and the mythology of the mind. We hope this analysis helps you map the chaos in your own world. Keep voluntarily exploring the unknown, and we will see you next time.